Welcome to this episode of Turning Grief into Growth, the Journey of Transformation. This is a podcast that's hosted by Greg Jacobs and Don Lipstein. Well, good day, Don. How are you doing today?
Actually, if you really want to know the truth, Greg, I'm sore. I did some kayaking over the weekend, and I'm still paying the price. I
Around your
mean,
lighthouse?
around the lighthouse, yeah. We went out to a sandbar that I feel like it's like a new island that's going to be created. It's kind of interesting because, here nature just takes over. And here we have this sandbar that's huge. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's having an effect on our island. I feel like there's either going to be a lake that develops where the
Mhm.
sand, goes around it. I don't know, but it's just every day get to watch it, and it's pretty far out. So my brother and I went and kayaked out there. I haven't been in the kayak for many years now. And I have two of them. I own two of them, but for whatever reason, I just haven't gotten in them. And this weekend we did, and man, I'm telling you, I am sore. I'm
So
paying the price.
I have been kayaking. My brother and I took a kayaking trip up to Michigan several years back, and it's never my arms or anything like that that's sore. It's my back. Is that what's sore for you, or is it your arms?
Everything, legs,
Yeah,
arms,
eyeballs.
back. I
Yeah,
used every muscle in my body, I think.
yeah, we went out on started off at an inlet and then went out on Lake Michigan, and a lot of times we were fighting the waves and the currents and stuff like that. So I was totally wiped out, and sore the next day. I can relate with that. Well, I'm glad you got out in nature and let nature rub on you a little bit. I'm hoping to do that a little bit today, and I'm glad you got to spend some time with your brother when he was in. So
Oh,
that's
and I
awesome.
should add too. We launched from the beach, and the waves were kind of small, so it made it easier to do that. But I went to get in mine, and a wave came and flipped the
Flipped you
kayak
over?
over. I went down in the water, the kayak went under, and and my brother had already launched, and he's getting ready to come back in. I'm like, no, 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 you stay out there. I'll figure
Yeah.
this out.
Now, are these sea kayaks with holes in the bottom and stuff, or are they closed?
No, they are not sea kayaks. They're touring kayaks. So
Yep.
they have you know,
Neoprene and
and the hulls, like
yep.
there's a cockpit and
Yeah.
yeah.
The kind I don't
Um,
fit in.
yeah.
Can't fit in
Well,
a 6'7" guy in those.
you probably fit in my wife's kayak. Mine, I used to fit in pretty easily, but I don't know. As I get older, maybe that's why I haven't kayaked for a while. I can't get in it as easily as I
Well, Don,
used
when
to.
you get to be as old as I am, you'll know what it's like for your knees to creak and your back and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and start off this episode. We're going to talk about choices today. This is a topic you picked out, and we do not have a guest today. So I'm excited for you and I to kind of just toggle back and forth on organic conversation with this. And just for our listeners, we never prepare a list of questions, an agenda, anything like that. We would like to keep it organic. We like to just kind of see where the conversation leads and go from there. So, Don, kind of start us off with your thoughts on choices.
Well, I'm going to start with my early days of grief and, how important it was to me to follow um, follow these. Like first, I was all in my head. When you lose a child to suicide, um, you're trying to figure out why. You've got all these questions, and I didn't find any of that very helpful. Um, just gone ruminating in my thoughts. Um, None of it was helpful. So I decided to go get therapy. I mean, I think that was a real important choice that I made. And I did that pretty early on. And I also got some peer grief support through TAPS. And I I made the choice to attend their um, seminar. It was 6 months after Josh died, attend their seminar for suicide loss survivors. And that in itself, that one choice that I made put me on a path and in the right direction to healing. Um, and I can tell you that what I learned from that experience was that I had to get out of my head and just kind of not allow my thoughts to take control and start listening to my heart. Um, and my heart was giving me much better guidance. And some people might call that intuition. Some people may say, follow your gut um, instead of your brain. That's something that I've heard a lot. Um, but I felt this in my heart, and when I was um, going through the like from that point, I just I chose to trust my intuition, my heart, uh, and the amazing healing journey that I found uh, was kind of unbelievable. Now, I can't say that that's going to work for everybody, um, but it certainly worked for me. And, it kind of dawned on me as like, God, I just need to make good choices that align with my heart.
Hmm.
And I think that's, one of the things that I learned. So that's the start, get us started.
You know, um, I was thinking about when you said, but you didn't use this verbiage, but I wrote it down, slant or bent. When you make that choice, there's like this slant almost, and it's so ever so slight, this bend towards that direction. The problem a lot of times is people don't see that. So it's not like you went to the TAPS seminar for suicide survivors, you went to therapy. Oh my gosh, the world was just like opened up. Everything was clear. You knew exactly how your future was going to unfold in front of you. And it was butterflies and rainbows and lollipops. And it was like, I am so glad I made that choice because it's just so clear to me now what's going to happen in the future. And that doesn't happen that way, right? It's just a
Not at
slight
all.
bend. Yeah.
Not at all. In fact, as I was going through it, um, and I think, we may be having an episode on what I'm about to say, but I didn't recognize it at all. I'm looking back. This is looking in the rearview mirror, saying, "Oh yeah, this this happened this way," but I could not tell you that it was happening that way when I was going through
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think for me, retrospective, looking back in the rearview mirror, as you said, is powerful. I
Hmm.
feel like it's a daily inventory we should all take because one, there are things that we have done wrong or incorrect that maybe we need to right the boat, as you said, tipping over the kayak. Or maybe it's the wrong bend or slant in the wrong direction. And we could see that over time that maybe that's not the direction we intended or wanted to take. For me, looking back, I could say that it was a week or two after David died where the TAPS crisis care team reached out to me and invited me to a men's call that you led, and it really helped me. But I will say that every single call before it happened on a Wednesday night, I fought it immensely. And I said, and I came up with every excuse in the book why I couldn't and shouldn't and didn't want to be on that call. And then I got on it, and every single time at the end, I'd talk to my wife, and I'd be like, "Man, I'm so glad that I surrendered to that and did it, because I'm a better person now." But it didn't come easy. So I think it is important to emphasize with choices, it's not like you're greasing the skids and you just slide right in. There's a lot of bucking and a lot of hesitation.
Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely not easy. There's nothing easy about this journey in my mind. Um, but when you think about, you're always at choice. We always, everyone, like we can go to the right, we can go to the left, we can go straight. Um, or we can even turn around and go back. I mean, we all have those choices no matter what it is we're going through at any point in our lives. I think when I think about the grief journey, and especially mine, um, I I feel grateful that I made the choices that I made. Maybe not all of them were right, but the majority of them was guiding me through into this healing journey and helped me to understand that I can help other people. Like this is not just about me finding healing, but maybe I can help myself by helping others as well. And so like we talked about, it's not something that you're clear about when it's happening. But as I look back on it, I'm very clear that those choices that I made turned out really well. I didn't turn to alcohol or drugs to numb my pain. Um, and that was a good choice for me. Um, I I did choose to seek professional help. That also was a good choice for me, and I sought peer group or peer support. That was, probably the best choice that I made. Um, so the list could go on, and but throughout the journey, there's choosing. Do I go right, left, straight, or back?
So that brings me to my next question. It might be a rhetorical question. I haven't gotten there yet in my mind. Is there any such thing as not choosing? Because I believe that you have this whole aspect of, well, let me go back. We had a guest on, Dr. Frank Campbell, previously, incredible man, incredible psychologist based out of Baton Rouge. I think he's retired now. But he's writing a book called The Canyon of Why. And he says that to use your kayaking analogy at the beginning, you're kayaking in this canyon. Let's say you're out in Colorado, and there's a fork in the river up ahead. You could either go right or you can go left. You don't have a choice to just tread water and not go right or left because the current is pushing you. So I think that not making a choice is making a choice. And it's way better to be proactive than apathetic. Wouldn't you agree with that?
That's a good point. And, when you brought that up, I was thinking about it. Like, is there a possibility that you don't make a choice and you allow the current to take you, right? If we're talking about that river analogy, like you don't have to choose, let the water choose. Um, but that is a choice. You're
It
right.
is.
Um, so yeah, and when I think about my life before Josh, uh, that's what I was doing. I was floating down the river, living life by default, not really feeling like I had much control over that. Um, and in my grief journey, I felt similar at the beginning. I felt like I didn't have any choice. But as I experienced some of the things that I was experiencing that had to do with my heart-based guidance as opposed to my brain or my mind guidance, I definitely uh, took the right path.
I think that when you look at, well, here's a comment I've said from the beginning, and I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I say it. I don't know if I heard it, if I made it up, honestly. Let your emotions lead you where they may, just make sure they don't destroy you. So I think that when you're talking about the river kind of taking you, it is a choice. So I do think that we need to be in tune. You were mentioning intuition in our heart. We need to be in tune with where our heart is taking us. We need to make sure that we are in tune with our emotions. But there is a possibility of your emotions actually destroying you if you don't want to get out of bed. If all you want to do is stay in a mourning phase and you get stuck because all you're doing is concentrating and thinking about your lost loved one, and you're not making space for growth, you're not making space for emotional support, whether it's through therapy or peer groups. I think that it would be healthy to talk about the negatives and the positives of choices. So some of the negatives, I'm kind of hesitant in saying steering away from right or wrong, because there can be some neutral consequences on some of these. So I like drugs and alcohol, for example. Like my back was hurting yesterday, and I had to leave. So we're not talking about that kind of drug. We're talking about opioids, things that would numb you. I will even throw out antidepressants can be a negative for a lot of people. I'm no doctor. I got a script for antidepressants. I took one pill when David died, and then I decided, something, I don't want to mask my emotions and my feelings. I don't want to be numb and suppress this. So that was a choice I made. I have known a lot of people that have benefited greatly from being on antidepressant medicine. So it's not a cookie cutter A or B type choice necessarily.
No,
Same for alcohol. I drink beer occasionally. I'll have an old fashioned bourbon type thing, but I never drink to excess, and I'm not an alcoholic, so it's not unwise for me to have an alcoholic beverage occasionally. Does that make
You
sense?
know, yeah, it does. And it brought to mind, I think on one of our previous episodes, Greg, we talked about sustainable and unsustainable.
Yes.
Um, and I think, this is what we're talking about right here. The things that, will can help us um, heal in the long run versus things that might make it harder for us to find that healing space. Um, and I've heard a lot of talk lately about do we really heal from our grief? And the answer is um, we're always going to grieve. I feel like when we lose somebody very close to us, we're always going to grieve that loss. We're going to miss them. We won't ever stop loving them. Um, but I call it active grieving and inactive grieving. And so I don't consider myself to be actively grieving right now.
Me neither.
I feel like, I've gotten to a space where I have integrated uh, Joshua into my current life. I know or I believe where he is. Uh, and in my mind, he resides right here in my heart, um, and that works for me. It's not going to work for everybody, and many people may find what I just said to be kind of crazy, but it my heart was broken open when he died, um, and I needed to find a way to fill that empty space. So I feel his presence, his spirit in my heart. That's a choice that I have made, and it works for me.
Same
I'm
here.
not saying it's going to work for everybody, and you know, but I think that's the thing that I think we're trying to say here is
Yeah.
we all have our own things that are going to work for us. Make those choices.
Yeah.
Choose to do that as opposed to giving up. I think the giving up piece is not sustainable.
I agree. Yeah, I think that when you mentioned that question that people ask, do we ever really heal? I don't think that we regenerate that hole in our heart and it gets filled over and replaced. I think the hole in our heart that we have from our lost sons is always going to be there. But I have had transformation around that hole in my heart that it is sustainable to live and to not just exist again, but to thrive again. And that was not my vocabulary earlier on. It kind of was because it was a goal of mine, but I didn't know what that looked like. And now I do with that. So, yeah. And, I have, when you talk about you have Josh in your heart, I feel the exact same way. I am a Christian. I do believe in a heaven, and I do believe that David is in heaven. I also believe we have no idea how that really works or looks. So sometimes in the evenings, I'll walk in my office, my computer's shut down, the lights are off, and I have a ring light right in front of my desk. Like for those on YouTube, I'll turn it on now. You can see it go on and then off. And sometimes I'll walk in and that ring light's on and the computer's off. I never turn the ring light on. And you know what I do? I say, "Hey, David." And I say hi to him. I go over and I turn the light off. Now, for those on the outside that have never experienced grief, probably think I'm a little cuckoo for that comment. That's okay. I don't care because I don't share it that somebody else needs to go buy a ring light and see if it goes on and off to be able to communicate with their children. No, that's just something, a little quirk that I do. I hear people that talk about red-tailed hawks and cardinals and different things that are God winks to them out in the nature. It's what we do to get by, and I fully believe it. It's not like I'm just making it up. I fully embrace that, but nobody else does, and that's okay because it's so unique that choice to me. So I want to just kind of move us in a little different direction when it comes to choices. There's a whole um, adage of being stuck in grief. We'd said that inactivity is a choice in and of itself, but to back up from that, let's say it's not. Let's say that you're just stuck. How do you get unstuck? And I think the answer is the title, choices. You have to make a choice. But I get people all the time that are 5, 10 years out that will call me and they're like, I just went to the cemetery and I broke down and now I'm in this spiral going down this rabbit hole. And for me, I was just at the cemetery and I was planting flowers and I was watering David's, flowers around the grave. And I went to Kroger and I got some steaks for dinner. And it's not, that demoralizing rabbit hole experience. Now, that's because I went to the cemetery every day earlier on, and it wasn't this ominous thing like, oh my gosh, I can't go out there. And I'm not exalting my choices, trust me. But what would you say to people that feel stuck or feel like they have some real traumatic events that trigger them and have an activation of emotions at that point?
I would encourage people that feel stuck to get professional support. Um, and, that's a choice. And sometimes people are okay being stuck. And that's okay. There's no judgment at all from me or you or there shouldn't be from anyone else either. If that's where you feel comfortable being stuck, then that's your choice. But when it becomes uncomfortable, when it's sustainable,
Sustainable.
that's when, you need to start making different choices than what you've been doing. Um, and for each person, that's going to look a little different, right? It's not going to be the same for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the choice to be an active morning is a choice. The choice to hit the pause button is your choice. I want to make sure that we're not saying that, hey, you can't ever hit the pause button. You and I have hit the
Oh,
pause button numerous times,
absolutely.
and we have been stuck in seasons of our grief journey as well. So it's par
Yep.
for the course in many ways. What I will say is my experience, and not just for myself, but talking with a lot of people, as you've talked to way more than I have, is that if you hit that pause button indefinitely, it will catch up with you. So you have to be prepared for the consequences of that pause button being prolonged too long. What kind of unsustainable effect, what kind of detrimental effect will it have on you? I didn't go to therapy earlier on per se. I did group therapy with groups, but when I lost my job and was laid off due to cutting of employees at my job, it threw me into a spiral. And I was just, I guess, on the cusp at that point that it was like, I need help. And I ended up getting like 7 online therapy sessions that were provided to me through work. And it really did help because the guy was explaining to me, you just had another instant loss in your life. Just like your son died in an auto accident instantly, you just lost your job. It wasn't, foreseen. You were there 13 years. You just got promoted to assistant vice president, all this stuff. And then bam, your legs are chopped out from underneath you. So there's things that happen in life that have nothing to do with our grief journey that still put us into a spiral, and we have to learn how to handle those.
Well, and you made choices on how to respond to that, right?
True.
When that happened, your job, you could have you could have just put your head in the hole and said, I give up.
Yeah.
But that was not what you chose to do. You chose to, you know, do something about it, and that's it's hard. It's not easy, especially when we're going through this. So, um, I'm 15 years out from my loss, and I'd say that because I want to remind people that, I've done a lot of work on myself and continue to do it. Like I'm continuing um, to learn new ways, better ways to uh, be a better version of myself. But it was the loss of my son that put me on this path, and that was a choice. That those were the choice. It a choice, not knowing what I was doing when I made the choice, but as I was walking this path and as I look back on it now, I can see that it was all about the choices I was making at the time.
Yeah. I was thinking back to when I did lose my job and the choice to choose the therapy. There was another choice I made. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was probably one of the best choices psychologically I could have made. There's a Christian group, a music group called King and Country, and they kind of relive the Cortez landing on, I think it was South America or Central America, it might have been the Caribbean, I'm not sure. And when he landed, he burned the ship. And he basically said, there is no going back to the motherland. There is no retreat. We're going to burn the ships and we're moving forward. I took my corporate shirt from the company I got laid off. It wasn't a spiteful thing. They were, embroidered shirts. And I went out to the garden and I poured some lighter fluid on them and I lit them on fire. And I played that song, and man, I sang that song and I laughed out there. And it was just a very therapeutic thing for me to say, okay, that season of my life is over. There is no going back. I could sit here and wallow in being bitter and upset. And trust me, it didn't go away just then, but it set me on the right slant and bent that we started off talking about at that point. Now I could look back and I think, man, that was very healing for me to say, okay, I'm going to burn my shirt just like Cortez burned the ship, and I'm not going back. So we do that in our grief journey with different things. We do that in our life where we kind of firmly plant our feet in the ground and say, this is the path that we're taking going forward. I'm not going to live in regret whether it's the right one or not. Because there's a lot of hesitancy out there with people making decisions. Am I going to make the wrong one? Just make it,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
just make it. Don't live in regret.
Yeah. And you can you can make that decision, and if it feels like it was the wrong decision, you don't have to stay with it, right? You can
That's right.
always choose to back up and start over if you feel like you're heading down the wrong path.
That's right. I agree. Don, on this topic, is there anything else that you want to add or discuss?
Hmm. Uh, no, I just love the thought of that we're always at choice. And no matter what it is, whether it's dealing with grief, dealing with a job loss, which is grief, but dealing with um, how to respond to uh, your wife um, who is upset with you for whatever reason. Um, you know, there's just all kinds of what to do about when you tip over in a kayak and you know you're gonna give up or call it a day, or are you gonna uh, get out of the water and get the water out of the kayak and dump it out and move forward. Um, and I had a great day. I could have chosen to
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, I give up." I didn't. So,
Yeah, I think don't cry over spilled milk is something that's very applicable.
yeah.
Well, folks, we appreciate you listening. I'm going to give a shameless plug to Don because he wouldn't do that because he is a humble man. But if you are looking for a grief coach, you can contact Don at imaginefamilyrecovery.net. He does a lot of great work with grief coach and counseling. So thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Greg.
Thank you so much, Don, for this conversation. And listeners, thank you for listening. Until next time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen. We hope turning grief into growth spoke to your heart and becomes a part of your own journey of healing and transformation. If you know someone who could use a little hope, please share this episode with them. And don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe on your favorite platform so you don't miss what's coming next. Don and I can't wait to share more conversations to help you keep turning your grief into growth. Until next time.